Hello, people of YouTube, it's Deep Hack here, and welcome to the DCS news for the 17th of May, 2025. This is me now doing this intro for the third time because apparently I'm too stupid to be able to press buttons properly. I cannot believe this. This is incredible. Me and John were in our heads live for like 5 minutes. Anyway, welcome to the stream, everybody. Thank you all very much for waiting. Apologies for the delay. Welcome to the stream, Tea Kettle Barbecue, Colin Kelly, Sean IM81, Tech Gaming 45, Pink Floyd, JP Gibbons, Paul Cope, Robbie Hobby, John Bluer, welcome to the stream. Byron Farrow, welcome everybody. So I hope you all enjoyed that Apache video, my most recent in the series, all about the aircraft's survivability equipment. I'm going to be doing further videos about the data link, and I'll probably also do something centered on the TSD because there's quite a lot to go into there. Welcome to the stream, Samantha. Good to have you aboard. Bunny. And yes, there's a couple more videos probably to come on the Apache, and then we're going to dive into the A10C. But today we're going to talk about the news, and let me bring in John Bluer for like the third time. Irmigoosh, how embarrassing.
I thought you were going to say, welcome to the DCS news for the 17th time.
Yeah, almost. I noticed that I hadn't gone live and then did the intro again, also having not pressed the go live button. So there's something wrong with my brain today. I don't know what's going on.
We've been chatting for 5 fucking minutes.
I know. We've just been going for it. So chat, can you guess what has actually happened in the world of DCS this week? Oh. Well, I'm not going to give you that long to reply. The Mig-29A is now on pre-order, which is very exciting indeed. Me and John had a lengthy conversation about how cool that aircraft is, none of which you were party to. So I guess we could summarize again a little bit that this is really exciting. You know, I'm well into the Mig-29. It is the obvious counterpart to the F-16. And it's, you know, it's like very advanced in some ways and not advanced in others. Like obviously, as is usually the case, the man-machine interface, the avionics and the ergonomics are terrible because it's a Soviet-era aircraft. But like certain parts of it, like the IRST, you know, the Laser Ranger, the helmet-mounted sight, the Archer missiles, it does have some really good tech in it. And I read the description that the ED give in the newsletter, and it sounds like it has some kind of INS, but I'm not 100% clear on that. They talk about aligning and gyroscopes, so I don't know. I don't know enough about this version of the MiG-29 to know if it actually has real INS. Later on in the newsletter, they also talk about the ability to preload up to 3 airports and 3 waypoints, so it kind of sounds like an early INS to me.
Yeah. That's weird, Byron, saying that. So before we went live, we were talking. Well, we thought we were live. Yeah. We were talking about the Mig-29, and we were saying that basically, I think everyone could agree. I think the Fulcrum and the Flanker series are like gorgeous aircraft. You know, at least especially the Mig-29A Fulcrum, it's just really nice. The later ones get a bit chonky, but yeah, the Mig-29 is amazing. The Flankers, gorgeous jets, and a really good way to kind of look at the 29 is it was a counterpart to the F-16A. So you got this lightweight fighter, which was about scrambling. Generally, it was armed with Fox 2s. You know, obviously some Fox 1s, pre-Fox 3. And then you had your, the flanker, which is sort of the counterpart or the answer to the F-15.
Yeah.
Which was this sort of air dominance, long-range BVR kind of stuff. And I was also saying that it's kind of, if you look at the Mig-29, it's kind of like the next step on from the Mig-21. So this, again, this sort of scramble jet, which is frontline, all about getting up fast, getting in there and kind of responding to stuff. It kind of makes sense. What the two?
It is a big jump from the 21, though. I would say, like
enormous.
And that would have been like for the what I guess at the time it would have been the VVS. For VVS pilots progressing from the 21 to the 29, they would have been very, very pleased, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, I think the 29 is really interesting jet. One of the things that's kind of weird about the Soviets, and I remember this was a thing, not always, but it was definitely a thing that Subbrief would describe when he talked about the way that they would describe submarines, is that in some of their circles of design, they were often told you can't reuse the same like technology. Every time you create a new thing, you have to do something new. It was like this, almost like this doctrine of always have new stuff, always have new technologies. Obviously, a submarine's a submarine, but they would always be like, okay, you got to use a new type of reactor, or you got to use a new type of sonar system. You sort of saw that a little bit in their aircraft design as well. They were always trying to push the boundaries of what they could do. What I always thought was, when you look at especially Soviet designs, it was always like the creativity and the ambition was cashing check, or was writing checks that like the Soviet Union's ability to kind of create stuff couldn't cash. Do you know what I mean? It was like, if you look at like probably the MiG-29, if you were to build it with like Western standards, it would be like incredible. You know, same for the MiG-25. Like the MiG-25 was this insane jet. If you were to build it with the same build quality as you get in the West, it would have been like insane. But they were always kind of a little bit let down by their manufacture and industrial side of things, and just because they had to another thing is they had to build so many of them. Russia's or Soviet Union was such a big area they had to defend. So, but yeah, I was just saying also before we got started, or we thought we were started, that there was a really interesting article I remember reading where when the Berlin Wall fell and the East Germans they brought over the MiG-29s, and they started evaluating them, that generally speaking, that the Western kind of world were not that impressed with the MiG-29, not because it was not impressive, but it was this boogeyman. It was this real boogeyman of jets. They were scary. If you come across MiG-29, it was a real problem. And they realized that it didn't have the legs, which we know now. It's all these things we kind of know now, but back then they didn't know that. Didn't have the legs. Didn't have. I think for a while they thought it had Fox 3s. It didn't have Fox 3s. Didn't even have the wiring or the capability to fire Fox 3s. But what they were really impressed with was the ability of its knife fight abilities. So it was like you said, the HMD, the Archers, the ability for it to rip around, the nose authority on it and stuff like that. They were like, oh, you do not want to merge with one of these things. They're scary.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were like, obviously that from there they learned, don't merge. Just constantly keep them at arm's length.
Blast it at range.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Welcome to the stream, Dirk G and Mr. Yeti. Welcome aboard. So let's jump into the newsletter that we have this week. It is a single item from ED this week, but a very important item nonetheless. The pre-purchase for the extraordinary DCS Mig-29A Fulcrum is now live with 30% off. A study-level 4th-generation Russian fighter has long been sought after by DCS pilots, and our Mig-29A is being developed to the highest degree of authenticity with external and cockpit models, systems, flight model, weapons, and sensors replicated to what we believe will set a high standard for DCS. The Mig-29A excels as an interceptor, and particularly as a within-visual range fighter. The aircraft benefits from exceptional flight performance, and the combination of the Archer R-73 high off-bore sight air-to-air missile with its helmet-mounted sight makes it hard to beat in a knife fight. So, yeah, pretty much what John said.
Yeah.
So what are we getting? It was operated by 39 Air Forces since its introduction in the 1980s, and approximately more than 100 are still in service. None of them by Russia, I think.
No.
I think they've pretty much gotten rid of them. The Russians generally fly Sukhoi flanker variants these days.
Yeah.
Actually, I assume they still have the K, though. The MiG-29K is the only thing that was able to operate recently off of Kuznetsov. But Kuznetsov is kind of useless anyway.
I think they're operating a fair amount of 35s, but the 35 I think is much more of a multi-role. So like the original kind of the kind of Interceptor 29A variants and even the S variants, I think they're retired now. Like you said, they're kind of leaning into Sukhois, but I think they're still operating a fair amount of the 35s. And I think like you said, the K models as well.
Yeah. The K models actually have fly-by-wire and some other kind of fancy toys. Interesting story. Excited for the MiG-29. It will be the year of the F-15C versus the MiG-29 Airquake.
Yeah.
Yes. Mangash, the text is beyond visual range for me. Can we zoom in a bit? I normally read for you all, but if you want to be able to read it on the screen, there you go. There's some bigger font for you. So yeah, operated about 100 of them still in service. What are we getting in early access? So we're getting a fully interactive and highly detailed cockpit based on 3D laser scanning and photogrammetry, highly detailed and accurately reproduced external model, highly detailed pilot model with the HMS, in-depth modeling of aircraft systems and equipment. We're getting navigational system modes. We're getting point-to-point mode for flying along a given route and flying to a programmed point. Again, this makes me think it has some kind of INS. Return mode for performing a return to one of 3 programmed airfields, landing mode for landing at both programmed and non-programmed airfields, and traffic re-entry mode for performing a reapproach to a programmed airfield in case of go-around. Detailed model of the gyro systems with fast and long alignment modes and onboard navigation equipment. Still, not being very, very specific here, but I'm guessing some kind of early INS. The ability to program 3 airfields, 3 RSBN radio navigation beacons, and 3 navigation points during the mission creation phase and while flying the mission. Realistic modeling of the SU-22M4 Berlioz radar warning receiver and flare dispensing system. So we're going to have the good old boop, boop,
yeah, with the little picture of the MiG-21, and it's got the little dots and stuff around it, which we've taken the mick out of before. But actually, if you know how to read it, it tells you a lot of information, and arguably a little bit more information than a standard, ALR, whatever it is, 27 or whatever you call it. Yeah, it's actually really interesting. Do you know what's interesting? I read this just to go on a segue about that Berlioz. Actually, do you know the version of the Mi-24P that we've got at the moment, the Hind?
Yeah.
The version that is most common has the Berlioz rather than what I describe as the Dr. Pepper bottle cap.
Yeah, so that's the one from the MiG-21.
Yeah, so apparently, this is what I've heard, is more that was like the first versions, but the later versions and the majority of Mi-24s of that version, the P, where it was called, had the Berlioz, which is really interesting. So hope that might be, if they're modeling it in detail here, it could be that ends up getting ported as maybe like a mission editor option or something to the Mi-24. I'm talking completely out of speculation here. I'm not quoting anyone, but yeah, apparently that was a thing. So it's cool. It's a good RWR though. One of the things I think it does tell you, which a lot of RWRs don't tell you in Western ones, is if it's above or below you. Yeah, which is really useful.
That is a unique feature that it has for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. We're getting the fire control radar with search and tracking modes for air targets that include head-on, pursuit, automatic, TWF, and close combat modes. We're getting the infrared search and track and laser range finder with modes for air targets, infrared, close combat, helmet, optical, and bore sight. LRF can be used to measure target range with automatic IRST tracking. LRF can also be used to measure slant range for ground attack. Ground attack modes that include pre-designated for use with moving targets and in windy conditions. Non-pre-designated for use with stationary targets and in cam conditions. And TOS when bombing is conducted with a 110 to 130 degree pitch angle. What does that mean?
Up, I guess.
Does that mean you do a Cobra maneuver to do your toss? That sounds...
Yeah. Maybe so. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't understand what they mean by that. In order to expand the combat capabilities for a covert attack on an aerial target and counter electronic countermeasures, the interaction of the FCR and IRST/LRF has been modelled. The kinematic range determination method has been modelled for FCR and IRST/LRF in the absence of target range data. This method allows precise range measurement. Basic IFF is modelled. There's the early access guide. We're going to get interactive training missions and a full Russian cockpit and localization of avionics, cockpit, and technical inscriptions in English. So in short, we're getting it in Russian and in English.
Cool. Yeah.
Nice. Only Napalm, welcome to the stream. Mr. Yeti. So we always say in the vid, if you can see the cockpit, it's a good way along development. Are we sure the vid doesn't use the FC version at some point? No. I do not think they would do that. And also,
this is way more detailed. If you look at even that shot there, that's not FC3. Because a lot of people have been streaming the MiG-29 in the last few days because they're like, oh, MiG-29, better learn it. And it looks good. And I tell you what, actually, a lot of the FC aircraft, they still look pretty good. Like the cockpits and the jets, they still look very good. But It's not this. It's not this
No.
level. No, not even close. Yeah. Not even close.
Get on my level, bruv.
Get on my level, bruv. Yeah.
Yeah, this looks really, really nice. So no, and also originally they were hoping for end of Q2. They haven't given us a firm release date, but I believe they are still aiming for Q2, which would effectively be in like 1 month, basically, or a little over a month. So this is probably dropping soon. Hence why they're giving us the pre-order now. Yes, Robbie Hobby, you must think in rush.
In rush.
So at final release. Now, this is cool because they hadn't confirmed this before. We're getting the Ground Control Intercept Command System, which is pretty nice. The only other aircrafts have anything really like this is the M2000C. They've implemented the kind of, the ground command data link for that, which is cool.
I think the 23 was supposed to get this as well, if I remember rightly.
They demonstrated it in the 23. The Razbam had videos of it actually using it, which was cool.
Yeah, very cool.
We're going to get full IFF modeling. We're going to get a full manual. There's going to be a campaign from Eagle Dynamics and an increased number of missions and liveries. So your call to action is pre-purchase this today. You're going to get 30% off. So while we think about that, let's watch the trailer.
Definitely muted. Don't get copyright.
Oh yeah, I've muted it. Don't worry.
Oh, good. Yeah, I don't want to get.
I'm always careful about it. But look at the detail in the cockpit here. This is really, really nice. And also the thing that I really like is that we're seeing a lot of the international versions of it. We're seeing a lot of Polish liveries. I think I saw a Czech one at some point, a Slovak. So yeah, we're seeing a bunch of non-Ruski air forces flying them, which is fun.
Yeah, the Polish and I think it's the Czech one. They have really nice looking liveries as well. Have you ever noticed there's certain liveries on liveries? Is liveries? Which one? I don't know. Liveries is the correct word. Yeah, I don't know. I can told I'm wrong. There's certain ones that like you'll have a jet sometimes and you'll just be like, wow, that really brings out like the shape and like the look of the aircraft. Yeah, this Polish one is it Croat one, whatever. It looks that's really Polish really one. Nice. That's the Polish one. Yeah, it looks great.
It looks really, really good. And yeah, the cockpit lighting already looks amazing. Oh, and actually, let's wind this back just a touch because it's going to touch on something we were talking about before. You spy what I spy. So
what am I looking at? So you got the obviously the repeater.
What we thought was just jamming. What we thought was just a HUD repeater. Oh wait, but of course it probably is because the radar is displayed in the HUD. So yeah, I guess it is still a HUD repeater. I was about to say, are we actually seeing this as a dedicated radar display? But no, I forgot.
The only thing it might be showing is see all that what do you call it? Great, my brain's.
I think that's ground
interference.
Look at the aircraft symbol. We're rolled over, so I'm wondering if that's ground returns.
Yeah, and that maybe that doesn't show on the HUD. And it only shows on that repeater. It could be certain things are only shown on the repeater compared to the HUD and vice versa. I'm not sure.
Okay.
If you look at the HUD, because it looks like the HUD before, does it have all that ground data on the HUD?
Hard to tell.
You see it for just a second before, don't you? Or is it after? Oh, he switches off. Yeah, that's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, so we don't know.
Yeah.
So,
we were talking about, we thought it did a bit more than that, didn't we? We thought it can't just be a HUD repeater, but maybe it is.
Yeah, but the thing is, I forgot that little detail that the radar is actually primarily displayed on the HUD. So it probably is just a HUD repeater.
Yeah, because I think it was the Su-27 that started putting in things like nav stuff, isn't it? And then the data link and all that kind of bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of seeing if I can spy anything on that HUD repeater.
Yeah, we don't seem to have any shots where we can see the HUD and the display at the same time, which is unfortunate. Because I would really, we should ask ED about that. Because there was a big thing about it, like in earlier versions of the FC3 MiG-29, it could display a dedicated radar page like the flanker. And then ED removed it from the FC3 MiG-29 because here we go. There was clutter.
Oh, it did
on
show
the HUD.
it. Yeah.
So it's probably just a HUD repeater. So ED said that they got further information stating that it is in fact just a HUD repeater and it has no dedicated radar display modes, and so they removed all of that. So I guess that's still their understanding of that display. So yeah, I would guess it's just a HUD repeater.
Yeah. Cool.
Dirk G, how long does the 30% offer last? They haven't said. In the past, it's been up until the aircraft leaves early access. But I wonder if it'll be up until the aircraft is released in this case.
It says on the just reading the newsletter, don't miss the exclusive 30% discount for pre-purchase.
Only lasts until launch. Yeah.
Until launch, and then once it's there, it's 20% off on early access. So
there you go.
They haven't stated a release date yet, and that's one of the reasons why it's not on. There you go. It's not available on Steam at a later date because I think Steam requires a release date.
Correct.
You have to do that. So I think that's one of the reasons they said A, that's why it's not on Steam yet, and B, I think they're still like, there's probably stuff they're ironing out, and then they'll go, cool, it's coming out this date, and then it will be on Steam. Probably when it goes on Steam is when we'll know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Only Napalm asking, was that a hand signal that we saw in the trailer? I don't know for sure. I know what you're talking about. You see his hand come up and go down. I think that's part of the animation for doing the helmet-mounted display.
Yeah.
Because you see the same thing in the Apache. They do this kind of thing. But who knows? Viking Cat, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Very good. Cool. So yeah, I think that looks really, really nice. Very excited to get my hands on that when the time comes, which might be quite soon.
Hope so.
That's everything that we have in the Eagle Dynamics newsletter for this week. However, there's a bunch of stuff going on with community mods. And me and John both thought it would be really cool to kind of focus on that for a little bit. So next, we have the Community A4E just hit version 2.3. And it's not a huge update, but it has some nice items in here. So the main thing being the Shrike has gotten some big updates. And we also get some some updates to the RWR system and some little bits and bobs with the MCL, ICLS, and so on. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah. So it looks like because obviously I think the Shrike was broken for the longest time, wasn't it? And then I think they were waiting because they knew that Heat Blur were doing the Shrike for the, or ED technically were doing it, but they were putting a new Shrike in for the Phantom, and I think now they've managed to kind of spend a bit of time with the new Shrike. Then they now are able to kind of do stuff. Yeah, but it's a cool. I watched a fantastic. There's a really good, by the way, if anyone wants to nerd out, especially if you sat there on the sofa eating Maltesers and drinking a cup of tea, you want to watch something. I'm not saying that's what I did, but if you want to watch something really cool, there's a fantastic on YouTube a documentary about the Shrike and how it was developed and the kind of the process and stuff. You get to see like interviews with the people who developed it, and it's really interesting because it kind of came out of obviously Vietnam was a big part of it, but they thought in Vietnam that when the Russians gave, or the Soviets gave Vietnam the SA-2, they were first of all surprised they had the SA-2, but then they were also thought, oh, the Soviets won't let them use it because they're going to have to ask for permission, so we're going to be all right. And then, like, several shot down jets later, they're like, shocked Pikachu face. Oh my god, and then they basically scrambled. I think they had some idea of some sort of homing device because there was one. Funny enough, there was one that's developed in World War II. I think it's called the Moth, and the idea was it would guide in on the signals sent by the flak directors.
Oh, okay.
It's really cool, and I don't think it got very far. It was one. It's one of these like wacky. The thing is, if you look at like World War II and just after like the 50s, there's all these like wild and wacky like ideas that they were doing. But they very quickly started developing the Shrike, and it's really interesting. And they managed to steal a bunch of stuff from, like, I think they used the Seeker head. They were able to use or something. They were able to use something or the gimbal system or whatever from the Sidewinder. They were able to use the Sparrow body with the what do you call it? The engine,
the
or
maneuvering surfaces.
Yeah, and they were able to basically sort of like go, oh, we're going to take this and we're going to take that, and we're going to take this, and they developed the Shrike, and it was kind of one of those things. And then I think it was almost like the best opportunity, but not the best opportunity. You had the Cuban Missile Crisis, and about the time that they were developing the stuff, and they actually from one of the kind of big gains from the Cuban Missile Crisis was they were flying jets around Cuba, and they had SA-2s, and they were locking jets, so they quickly scrambled up jets to do what do you call it? Signal intelligence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And they said they were able to tune the Shrikes and kind of figure out a bunch of stuff for the Shrikes from the Cuban Missile Crisis. Really fascinating. If you guys look it up on YouTube, it's really, really good. But yeah, it's really cool. The Shrike's a really cool missile when you think about it. It's very simple compared to like a harm or anything like that, but it's awesome. It's really interesting stuff. Yeah.
Chat's asking a bunch of questions. Stuart McLean, welcome to the stream. Pink Floyd, is it the Shrike video? Is that the one by Dronescapes?
Let me have a gander and find out which one it is, and I'll let you guys know. But if you
Tea Kettle Barbecue was watching a cool documentary all about the walleye, which is similar era.
Yeah, that's a really cool one. If it's the one I think it is. Yeah, that's a great one.
And Mr. Yeti, is the Tornado going to have the alarm? Now, it's a cool missile. If it lost signal with the SAM, it would zoom climb and then deploy a parachute and hang there till the radar switched back on. Alarm was British, if I recall correctly. And the Tornado we're getting is German. They have said that later they're going to try and implement some British weapons, but I would imagine, given how complex Alarm is, if we do get it, it'll be much later. I would imagine.
So here you go. 2 videos. They're both by the same uploader. I don't know if they're the original people who made it, but they're the same uploader. It's called Baltica Beer. So it's Baltic, as in like the Baltic countries. Baltica with an A on the end. Beer, all one word. They've got 2 videos. It's one called The Origins of the Arm, and it's all to do about the Shrike. And they've got one called The Pursuit of Precision, called the AGM-62 Walleye. And those 2, they're about an hour and a half long, both of them. They're brilliant. Really interesting stuff. Really, really cool.
Okay. Well, there you go. There's your top tip, people. So this is the update to the A4. Sounds really, really nice. The A4 is just so classic. I was flying it fairly recently. It's still just absolutely brilliant. So go check that out. Another one, we were actually talking about this last week, I think. The F5 mod that it adds a refueling probe. It adds a bunch of really interesting stuff actually as well, because it adds the Lightning 2 targeting pod and all kinds of crazy stuff. Sadly, none of it functions, so it's all entirely visual. But here we get a screenshot from them showing off an upgraded cockpit that they're going to be coming out with soon. With it's an Elbit Systems HUD and UFC, which apparently was an upgrade available for some of the Tigers. So that's pretty cool.
It's very cool. Is that planning to be? Do you know if that's planning to be functional?
This would be functional because they said that they're developing their own cockpit, and once they've developed their own cockpit, they will then be able to make some of the weapons they've added and the targeting pod actually function. So I think this is kind of a precursor to making some of that stuff actually work. I think the only things that work right now are the upgraded Sidewinders and Python missiles that they can put on the plane. But you can currently also mount like Maverick and things like that in their mod, and none of that works. Sad. But maybe one day. Now, this one came from our very own John Bluer. See if I can zoom this in a little bit. We've got an update coming from our ham sandwich man, all about the UH-60L. So here we're getting a new flight model, new rotor blur, internal cockpit geometry update. Textures are now stored in zip files, fixed suspension, implementing support for force feedback, working trim options, native DCS cargo and troop loading. That's nice. The ESSS fuel indicator has been fixed. Re-implemented cargo seats as internal geometry. Going to get AI gunners.
That's big, isn't it? Yeah, that's really cool.
More fuel tank options. Fixes to geometry. Working wipers that actually remove rain.
Hey!
New damage models. New damage values. Overhauled the rotor damage model. Updated the KC-130J to allow slower airspeeds when orbiting. Does he add that aircraft as an AI aircraft in this?
I don't know.
That's
I
interesting.
assume maybe he does. Yeah, maybe
must
he does.
do. Because this version of the Black Hawk has the boom, right?
It does. Yeah.
So I guess he must have like a special version of the KC-130 that you can refuel with. Pilot and crew models have been added. Fixed the RWR. Anvis now only displayed when NVGs are on. Various other fixes. And there's new variant. We're getting a DAP variant, which adds a gunner panel, an armament management system, a pylons panel, I don't even know what the DAP is. Is this some kind of...
Oh, the direct action penetrator, which definitely sounds like something you want to clear from your browser history. It's basically the 106th version, the Night Stalker's version of the Black Hawk, which has it's very cool. I remember seeing it in Gunship 2000, and it's basically got big old pylons, and it can carry Hellfires and Stingers and rockets and all the cool stuff.
Well,
and the idea was basically like a self-escorting Black Hawk, but his version won't include the Hellfires, just because apparently you just can't. It won't work properly without an SDK. You just can't do it. So what he is including, which is really cool, is you're getting the M260 and M261 rocket pods. You're getting M230 cannons. So you're basically getting the Apache chain gun as a fixed gun system, which is very cool. And you're getting stingers as well, ATAS. So with relevant audio as well. So you're going to have the good old wobble and tone and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. I'm really curious to see. There you go. That's the DAP. There you go.
I've managed to find this image of it.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can see the chain gun. I think it's on the left there. Or was that a Gatling? But yeah,
Hard to
very.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, and they can also, as you can see there, they can fix forward the miniguns and fire them from a forward position as well.
Yeah.
You've got the door gunner miniguns on top of all that. But yeah, the idea I basically behind the DAP was I think it was a 106th or 106 160th kind of requisition. This was the cool era. I always call this is the cool era, or at least the last remnants of the era, where it was like guys with like mustaches drinking beer, and they were like, oh, we need to edit the or we need to just slap this thing on a Black Hawk. And it was that era where they just got a welding, what do you call it, a welder and some metal, and we're like, okay, we're just gonna stick a minigun on this.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And they would just there was no like forms. They just did it. Like, and you hear about this all the time. They had cowboy boots on, they're like, yeah, we'll put a minigun on it. Yeah, do it. And it's awesome. That era was awesome. Now they have to put prerequisites. It's health and safety gone mad. But it literally was that era where they were just
urgent
building
operational
stuff.
requirement.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, the DAP is definitely kind of out of the back end of that era. But yeah, if you look at it, it is badass. Anyway, I think it's in War Thunder as well. I hate to bring up that word because it triggers people.
I found a bunch of links that just pointed me to War Thunder. So we're getting this version, which is nice.
Yeah. It's cool. It's very cool. So yeah, pretty
I'm
good considering he's doing this from for a mod. I'll be really curious to see how this looks.
And of course, this is I'm not going to try and say his name, Kinku, whatever his name is.
Ham Sandwich.
Ham Sandwich.
Yeah,
who is of course ex Polychop, so he knows what he's doing.
Absolutely. I think in those links he adds movable crosshair, so that expect the little crosshair you could move on the Kiowa.
Yeah.
The little pen mark. That's basically how you're going to aim most of the stuff, which is pretty cool. So yeah.
Nice.
That's really interesting. And the Black Hawk is used on a lot of servers as well. So I didn't think that this I knew, obviously we've talked about it before, I think in a previous stream. I didn't expect it to be this much of a changelog. So
it's quite significant. Yeah, he's obviously he's had some time to spend on it, and he's obviously learned a lot in working on the Kiowa. So this is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Robbie Hobby, MH60M as an official module would be fantastic. Please, Wags. Please, Daddy Wags.
He might be here. He might be watching right now.
He might be here, and I apologize.
Yeah, we're sorry about that. But also, please, Wags. Please, MH60M.
But that's not all.
No.
We've got more community madness going on. This, which I'd never even heard of this, but it looks like it's actually in a fairly, I don't know why I'm speaking like that, fairly late stage of development. We have the SU-22M4 mod. Now, this is a really interesting aircraft because it was still being used by a few air forces until fairly recently. I think actually maybe the Polish Air Force still flies this.
Yeah, they do.
I know. I think the Ukrainians were flying this as well at the start of the war. I don't know if they still have any. And actually, I think am I talking total nonsense? Was this not the aircraft that was shot down by the Turks in Syria? Didn't they shoot down an Su-22 flown by the Russians?
Sounds about right. Yeah, I could be wrong, but
Chat can
that
fact
does sound
check
right.
me. I might be talking
Yeah.
complete nonsense because I remember when the Turkish shoot down happened, I looked this aircraft up because that was my first time actually hearing of it. And I was kind of
Yeah.
like, the Russians still fly this thing?
Yeah.
But it does look, honestly, it does look really, really cool. Okay, it's pretty old school, it's pretty clunky, but it looks like a workhorse. It looks like an effective aircraft. So it's cool. And Doc Vibe Check says it was a 24, not a 22, which is a fairly similar aircraft. Oh, yeah, because this one is a single seat. The 24 is a two-seater. So it's a very similar aircraft, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I swear on a more like official way, is it Red Air that made this? Someone who's made a red, is it Red Star? Who made the MiG-17 or someone?
Yes, Red Star
Anyway,
Simulations. Yeah,
might be them. Someone was supposedly supposed to be doing a Su-17, or because the Su-17 is like basically like an early version of the Su-22 and all that kind of stuff. A bit like you got a Su-27 and a Su-33. It's just, it's the same jet effectively with different bits on it and stuff like that.
yeah.
So someone was making. I don't know if they officially claimed it, but there was definitely renders. I don't know if it was a little bit of a Razbam situation where they go, "We're making one," because they make like an external render and they just declare they got it.
Yes.
Maybe someone else was doing that as well, but it definitely was. There was someone else working on one of these before this mod came along. But this is a really, really impressive mod. I watched this video and he sent me it to the other day, and I was like, "Wow, this is really like, really fleshed out."
I don't at any stage see him actually clicking in the cockpit. So it looks like it's basically like an FC3 level. But that is a custom cockpit with a custom gun sight and a custom external model. Like this is really amazing.
It's really good.
Yeah. So I don't think we're getting any clickable goodness, sadly. But this thing looks amazing. So
what I'm curious about is two things. Oh, sorry, carry on.
No, you carry on.
Yeah. So I've got two things I'm curious about. Is first of all, looks like some sort of screen there. Now, is that just a HUD repeater, or like we said in the MiG-29, to repeat ourselves?
Yeah, well, I can answer that question. Currently, I read his documentation. Currently, it brings up the kind of Cheval style display that you have from the Su-25T. As Tech Gaming 45 said, it borrows the Su-25 avionics.
Right.
However, with a fairly kind of unique cockpit design and so on.
Yeah.
And I think right now I think he was saying that he wants to do something a bit more custom, but right now it basically just brings up the Su-25T Cheval.
Yeah. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing was really interesting is the cockpit. This is an inverse from most mods that I've seen. Most of the time, the external model looks amazing, and the cockpit looks a bit like eh.
Yeah.
And then like it's almost like an afterthought. And then this jet, like the internal model, or what do you call it, the cockpit looks incredible. And then if you actually kind of look at certain shots of the external, it's like okay, it's all right, it's fine, but it's not like up there with other stuff. And that's weird. That's a weird invert with this. It still looks, by the way, it still looks good. I'm not shitting on the artwork at all, whatever first. But yeah, the cockpit is like really impressive. I was looking at those bolts on that front bit there. The geometry going on in this is wild. Yeah, you can see here if you look at when he's got those like cool, I call it Rogue One shots where you got those onboard stuff. The odd external view where it's kind of like almost latched, the camera's latched on like a GoPro. It's not.
Some of the textures are a little bit low res.
It's kind of like early FC3 kind of level, but still, dude, it's a mod, so I'm not complaining.
I think it looks amazing, and clearly, this video, if you're looking for this one, it's called Low Level Strike on a SAM site. It looks fantastic, and it looks like everything like works basically. Like he conducts a full attack. He's dispensing flares. He's firing. I think those are anti-radiation missiles he's firing. It's all basically working. So this is cool. As I understand it, this is not released at the current time. I think they do have a Discord that you can go and hang out at if you would like. So keep an eye on this Su-22M4 mod. And then we've got another one. And this one is an F-15EX. And this one is also not released as yet, but it also kind of looks like it's fairly far along. So yeah, this is Spino, and he's showing off the fact that you can absolutely load it up with AIM 260s, AIM 120Ds. It's kind of crazy. I'd actually not even heard of these, the AIM 260s, but he describes them as miniature AMRAAMs designed for shooting down drones. So that's kind of interesting. And you look at how many this thing can carry. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't know if these loadouts he's demonstrating here are realistic or not, but I kind of hope they are. But just look at this. Look at this.
It looks like something out of Ace Combat, doesn't it? With all the missiles.
That was my first thought. My first thought was this is some Ace Combat shit going on here. Because look at this 2-layered setup on the wing pylon here. So he's got 2 AMRAAMs and then 2 AIM 260s underneath it. And then on the other side, he pops 2 120Ds and another 2 120Ds in a stack. Like, I don't even know how many air-to-air missiles this is carrying in total. I would imagine, I would have to imagine that this loadout is a no-go in the real world. Like, how much drag are you getting?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You
can the aircraft can the aircraft even go supersonic like this?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I tell you what's interesting, because I've kind of paid attention to a lot of Spino stuff. So early on, it very much was like him just modifying, and this is definitely the case of this still, but it was just him kind of like doing stuff with FC3 and very kind of basic flight models and sorts of stuff like that. You could see like it was just him tinkering and coming up with cool stuff. But what's been really interesting is as he's gone further on, as you would expect, you can tell that he's becoming a little bit more proficient, and like the finish is getting there. I mean, as you can see on this, he's now got like a giant, what's that called when you got like a giant MFD? There's a name for it, isn't it? It's just like one MFD.
It's like the wide angle multifunction display, I think they call it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So this is actually, I watched a video about the development of the F-15EX, and the idea behind this display is that it's kind of the same concept as the F-35. You have this giant display, and you can segment it and put all your traditional avionics as little windows inside it. And although on this version, it seems to have a backup instrument to the right-hand side as well. But very, very cool. I don't know if he's simulating the back seat here, because we only see the front seat. I would imagine it's front seat only, but still, this is like, just look at what he's done with the multifunction display. This is fantastic.
It's obviously using F-15C stuff. You can tell by the MFDs and bits and pieces on there, but that doesn't take away from the fact that these are people tinkering around. They don't have a source development kit. These are people who are just basically kind of just pulling things apart and use caveman sticks, so to speak, metaphorically, to kind of make these things. And so you have to hand it to them. Like, whether this is your cup of tea or not, it's still absolutely amazing work that they're able to kind of get this done with. Again, without an SDK. So this is really, really cool. And I think one of the things I'd say is, I was going to say this about, is it Vin Torres who made the Su-22 that we just saw? He's also done, he was the guy who did that MiG-29, like the one with the navigation
thing. With the Garmin.
And he's made a bunch of stuff. And I was looking at him and just the level of finish that some of these guys are doing. And I'm looking at this kind of looking forward. Is this a pipeline thing where, like, you've got, like we saw Cuban Ace, who's now involved in Sky Raider, and obviously the big one's Granelli, who was involved with the now is making the F-100D. We've also got our friend Ham Sandwich, who obviously was making the Black Hawk, went to Polychop and did his thing. Is this if we look at this in that way, are we looking at potential new developers down the line? Are these going to be more new third parties? Because they're obviously getting to grips with stuff. So yeah, really interesting.
It's very, very cool. We've got Tricker in the chat. Welcome to the stream, sir. Good to have you aboard.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yes, we are handsome bastards. You can have young or you can have old. Which do you prefer?
You have salt and pepper. Which one are you going to pick?
Exactly. So yeah, Rosura. There
Yeah.
was an SU-24M in FC 2024, which
It
worked.
worked. Oh,
When he
interesting.
says FC 2024, does he mean flight sim? He must mean Microsoft Flight Simulator.
I think he means Flaming Cliffs 2024 because that's what the upgraded Flaming FC3 is now, isn't it? It's called FC
Yeah,
2024.
there
So
is an
maybe that.
SU-24M. Okay, so I guess
Oh,
there's another community mod. That's what, right. Okay,
yeah,
because I was like,
yeah,
I know there's not one included, but yeah, I guess he means
yeah,
a community mod. That's really cool.
yeah. Sure.
Why not both?
Yeah. I like his thinking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now you're thinking
Yeah,
with portals.
yeah.
Um,
Portals,
cool.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
And I'll take this opportunity to ask everybody to please subscribe, like, and comment if you haven't already. It's amazing how many subscribers I have now, and still only a fraction of those who watch my videos are subscribed. So go and press that button, make an old man happy.
Yeah.
Do me a solid.
Do you a solid, absolutely.
And you also have the option of further supporting the channel by joining Deephack's ground crew for a very small monthly fee by clicking the join button below. But I'll talk more about them in a little bit. That's one of those AIM 260s. So yeah, these are very, very modern. Like this, I think the Air Force was only like testing them in the last couple of years. So this is like brand new missile tech. But we
just the
already
two-stage one. Isn't there one that had like a two-stage booster? I can't remember which one it was. There was one they were testing at one point.
Well, we just watched the launch, and it only seemed to do a single stage. Yeah, who knows? Very exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, those are all the community mods that we have for this week. And in fact, that's all the news that we have for this week. So I'm going to take this opportunity, as I often do, to pimp the VAF, and then I'll give John an opportunity to pimp himself, as I know he loves to do. So, the VAF, or the Virtual Air Force, is a virtual online squadron originally started by myself and Dot Chuckles many, many moons ago. We're currently operating on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. UK time. We're in EU time zones, and we currently have squadrons for the Harrier, the F-16, and the F-18. You can see a link to our Discord in the show notes below. Everybody's welcome to join, whether you fly with us or not. We're always looking for more pilots, air traffic controllers, mission makers, livery makers, scripters, and just anyone who wants to hang out with some cool people who fly planes. I'm in 3 Squadron. I actually haven't flown that much recently, but I am in VAF 3 Squadron flying the Harrier. So if you want to, come along and join us. It's a great bunch of people, and it's a good laugh. So that's our little call to action. John should be visible again. Sorry for making you invisible for a moment. So John, you can follow John on twitch.tv/John Bloor. I wonder if you can give us a wee update on fun things that are happening with you, sir.
Absolutely. So I haven't also been streaming DCS as much. Basically 2 things. A lot of time outside of stuff. You know, as we all know, you got to have the time to do these things. And the second thing is, I wouldn't call it quite a burnout with DCS, but I'm at a stage at the moment where, do you know when you get into like a rut of like a game loop and doing the same kind of stuff? I've kind of gotten into a little bit of a rut with that a little bit at the moment. So I think probably what I'm going to be doing is just to spice things up a little bit. I'm going to be looking at things like Gunner Heat PC. I'm doing a couple streams of that. Might even do a little bit of stuff like Ground Branch as well, or even some Ready or Not, if you guys are aware of that, which is kind of like a SWAT team kind of stuff. So very milsimmy in a way, but just kind of just a small break from DCS. It's again, I always think I'd actually say to people, I think more people. It sounds bad saying this. I'm sure ED won't like this. More people need to take a break from DCS. If you ever get to a stage where you're like, I've seen other people kind of start getting a bit frustrated with things, whether they get annoyed with release things or bugs or whatever. And I'd just say, speaking from experience, if you start getting to that stage, it's good to just, proverbially go out and touch grass, but also, take a break from the game because it's not going anywhere. And the second of all, one of the things I noticed is, and this is a positive way to kind of spin it around, is you go away and you come back and you actually kind of reappreciate DCS again. It makes you go, oh yeah, actually, it's actually amazing at this moments. It has its moments, isn't it? DCS. Sometimes you'll fly on it and you'll just be like, this was really clunky and like it's from 2007. And then sometimes you'll fly on there and you'll just be like, wow, this looks amazing. And you can literally have that in the same flight sometimes. But yeah, it does make you at least appreciate it. So I'm just taking a small break from DCS. But I'll tell you one thing I just want to talk about, which I think is really interesting. A buddy of mine called Indie Navy on Twitch. He's called twitch.tv/Indie Navy. That's INDYNAVY. They are doing an event at the moment. So they're flying on the Cola map with Orbex Systems, who are the developer, and it's sponsored by those guys. And they're giving away 3 copies of the Cola map to viewers who are watching. You have to be part of a giveaway. But they're talking about they're flying around on it. They're talking to the developers. They're doing this right now, by the way. But don't leave now.
Don't leave.
We'll worry about this afterwards. And they're flying around on their server, which is on the Cola map. And they've got the Orbex guys in, and the Orbex guys are going to be talking about what they plan to do with Cola and what their next steps are and all that kind of stuff. So after this stream, if you go on twitch.tv/Indie Navy, I'll probably be hanging around there as well, potentially. Basically it's all to do with the Cola map and what they're planning there. So the Cola map, I think, is a really cool map, and it's great to see some more kind of Cold War gone hot environments, especially a snowy one as well.
I like it because although it doesn't quite cover where I live, it's quite close to where I live.
Yeah.
So I can fly a little bit north of where I live in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, exactly. And also, like, it was both in, is it the F-18 Hornet, Jane's F-18 Hornet? Yeah. I think it was the map. And then what is it, EF-2000, I think? That was the
depends which version they were, because one of them was Norway, one of them was Iceland. I wonder. Yeah, they almost certainly had parts of that map in certain versions of the game.
Yeah. So you get to do that, and obviously you've got, what's the sub base? Sverdlovsk. Well, I can't remember how it's spelled now, but yeah,
I know what you're talking
big
about.
one.
Yeah,
Archangelisk, whatever it's called.
I can't remember what it's called. Something in Russian.
Yeah, but it's the big one. It's kind of round that what I call the butt cheeks of the Kola Peninsula. If you kind of go round the butt cheeks, it's just below the butt cheeks is where the
where it is.
Where you find the subs, exactly. But yeah, it's really cool. So no, they're doing that little event. So go after the stream, go check them out. And I think there's a couple of streamers that might be flying around on there, but at least I know Indie Navy is, and so it's cool. It's part of a little community event which Orbex are involved with. So yeah,
excellent. Okay, so Deepak's ground crew. Thank you very much, all of you who are already members of Deepak's ground crew. Some small benefits you get if you do join is that we have a little Discord where we hang out. I haven't actually done my flying. We need to do more flying sessions with Deepak's ground crew, but we're going to do a bit of that. The Discord also has links to all of my playlists and videos and other bits and bobs. I upload mission files there as well sometimes. Something we're going to start doing is I'm going to start uploading all of my YouTube videos to a second place, as yet to be decided on, where everybody who's a member of Deepak's ground crew can watch them without adverts. So you don't have to either join YouTube Premium or watch adverts. You'll have the ability to watch all my videos for free. It won't be any different content, so everything that I post will always be on YouTube, but they will also be in this other place available to Deepak's ground crew members. Murmansk, says SeanAm81. There you go. That's the place.
There you go.
So I really appreciate those of you who are already supporting me and are already members. You can click join if you would like to. So thank you very, very much indeed. Oh, let me click on the link and get the names. I clicked the wrong button. I'm doing really well today. No technical problems at all. Thank you very much, Channel Right, JR Walker, Fishy's Canal, Mr. Yeti, Sean IM81, John Bluer, Tea Kettle Barbecue, Whiskey Dale, Stuart McLean, Mangash, Exorcist, Frantic, Willow Wilson, Byron Farrow, Osprey, Snooblaren, Laskin75, Interesting Story, Whoopaz, Pink Floyd, Samantha, and Alice. Thank you all very much for your support. And I've been Deepak. Every Saturday about 6:30 p.m. UK time, I upload a new tutorial, currently doing a series on the Apache. We've probably got a couple more to go on that one, and then we'll dive into the ATNC. And that's always followed by the DCS news, which just happens to be this thing, what you're watching right now. Thank you all very much for watching. Fly safe, and we'll see you next time. Ta-ta.